Assalamu alaikum and good evening. You are listening to Let's Talk, our weekly current affairs show with me, Akil Khalil, and my co-host Hamid Chowdhury on Salaam Radio 106.2 FM and also Inspire FM in Luton. You can find us online at salamradio.co.uk as well as social media at Salaam Radio. We're also live on YouTube and you can find us on our iOS or Android apps. We're always on air 24/7, 365, uniting all communities. Please get involved with your opinions by calling us on 01733 602 133 or text WhatsApp us on 07745 278 978. Assalamu alaikum, brother, how are you?
Well, Islam, you didn't use the fader there.
Oh, well, I'm not quite skilled on that.
I was just going to say, you're getting good at this.
Am I?
Yeah.
Trying my best. You know, I keep forgetting about the fader.
Come on, you should have used the fader.
Really? Where's the fader?
Sorry?
Where's the fader?
I haven't got a clue, but it's down.
You know
I'm sure it's on one of those things.
You know what we need? We need training. Where's our station manager? Big shout out to Qasim. We do need that station manager. I need.
Wasn't training like about 2-minute sort of show of the equipment?
No, it's in depth.
It's in depth, is it? I've not done that.
You didn't go on that 12-week course? No. Oh, okay. Yeah.
No, I'm not paid yet.
Oh, okay. I just want to reassure our listeners we are volunteers. How's your week been, brother?
Alhamdulillah, you know, as always, good week, you know, every week's a good week. Yeah, work, home, kids, family, wife. If she's listening. What can I say?
Oh, dude. I don't know. You sort of rendered me speechless.
Sorry, I just thought I'll just put it all out there.
I just want to remind our listeners you can get involved in the conversation, even if we're going to be talking about that. You know, we had a good show last week. We had a lot of people listening to our show. We
didn't have a good show. We had a great show.
Great show. A lot of people, you know, listening.
Except the last sort of minute or so.
Yeah, that was interesting. You know, we've got a lot of people listening, obviously, and we realise there are a lot of people in this community and around the world who have got, you know, their own comments and opinions and things like that. You know what? And it's great to see they interact with our show, but it would be really nice if somebody actually called into the studio or, you know, sent us a message on social media.
See, that's the problem with social media.
Okay,
you know, I don't have Facebook, right?
Nor do I.
But I'm not a Luddite either. I don't, you know. But the problem is, I think, you know, people happily put a comment on Facebook or WhatsApp or whatever but they'll be very reluctant to pick up the phone and ring in. Yeah,
and this is a trend that we are seeing. I'm hoping tonight potentially it may change.
Inshallah.
So just to remind everybody, you can call the studio on 01733 602 133, or you can email us, in fact, if you don't feel like you want to do that, at info@salamradio.co.uk, or you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, etc.
But we'd rather you call in.
But we'd rather you call in, actually.
Yeah.
It'd be nice to have a conversation with someone.
I actually thought last week we might get some callers because it was it was one of those topics that...
It was definitely. It was pertinent. And I thought the same. But however, our social media pages, etc., certainly were busy during and after the show. So, that's good. I've had a good week, by the way. I'm glad it's Friday, though.
Say so yourself.
Thank you very much. You know about it already. It's been good. Tonight's show, brothers and sisters.
I ended the week with a broken nose.
You know, I wasn't going to mention that.
It's probably going to be on, you know, we're on...
Okay, so let me set the scene.
Right.
Brother Hamid has shown up in the studio today.
Yeah.
And he looks like he's been in the ring with Tyson.
I got the better of him because I'm still standing and coherent.
You're sitting. You can hear. I'll give you that. Both his glasses are broken. Well, actually, his lenses are broken. Both of them.
Yeah.
And he looks like he's been punched pretty hard on his nose. And you can see this live on Facebook and YouTube. You know, if you have any sympathy
So I
comments,
used to be a rugby player, so you know these things don't affect me. No.
Oh, okay.
But this was my own fault, though.
And also, by the way, I'm starting to think Brother Hamid is trying to get the sympathy card. But if anybody wants to give him a shout or anything, you can go on our social media challenge and do that. But we do.
But you know what?
We do wish you a very fast recovery.
You know, on a good side, on a flip side, when this happened, I suppose I mean, you can take it one or two ways, right? You can either think, oh my God, what's happened, blah blah blah, you know, or you can say, well, you know, okay, after the initial reaction, you can say Alhamdulillah, because you know, maybe through this tiny injury or pain, Allah has removed a bigger that we don't see from the road. So alhamdulillah, you know, you have to just say Qadullah ma shafa. We say that when most often when people die, but you know, the meaning is that it's the will of God, and God does as he pleases. So so in everything, I think we have to look at the positive side, because the Prophet was always about glass half full rather than half empty. You know, it was always optimistic, even at the time when they were being annihilated, you know, and the armies of the Hijaz, you know, the Quraysh were on the doorstep. He was saying that actually, you know, you small community of Medinan people who are facing a massive army are actually gonna be victorious against superpowers like Rome and Persia, which they were in. Yeah, so it's about optimism, and it's about so alhamdulillah, you know, in that sense, it's okay. It looks worse than it is, but alhamdulillah.
Yes. I'm just going to the last bit, but it looks worse than it is.
Yeah,
it doesn't look good. Anyway,
it doesn't look good.
So tonight's show, brothers and sisters, listen all over the world and the UK. We're going to be talking about hard men and their nuclear toys, and in particular, what we're going to be talking about is the current climate where we have, leaders of very powerful nations. And their rhetoric, or certainly ratcheting up their rhetoric about a possible, God forbid, but potential nuclear war, Armageddon. And for our benefit of our listeners, you know, this really is about North Korea, the Korean Peninsula, the United States, and certainly what's been building Russia, Iran. You know,
Crown Prince Salman, whatever, in Saudi Arabia.
So we have essentially, then you could, if we're going to go there, then we can also add in Israel. You have Benjamin Netanyahu.
I mean, Israel has just been a common denominator in this whole.
Did you know Netanyahu? So Benjamin Netanyahu described the Middle East as a Game of Thrones. Right. So, and it seems quite apt, really, when you think about it, when you just step back a little bit and understand why he said that.
Yeah.
So that is our first topic. And then later
I haven't seen Game of Thrones, so I can't see, but I'm sure it's...
Do you know what? I can almost guarantee you half of our listeners have just gasped, like, oh, really? My God, what did he say himself? And the second half of the show is about consumer society. And the question we're going to be asking is, are we compelled to always buy the latest gadget? This is in view of Apple's release of the iPhone 8 and then 20 minutes later the iPhone 10. But we'll go through that later on in the show.
Sure.
But at the beginning now, we want to just talk about what's going on. So, you know, essentially North Korea is a small country and it's causing some very big headaches as its war of words with the United States reaches new levels. And, you know, the rhetoric between Pyongyang and Washington has slowly escalated in recent years. But a sharp increase in the number of missile tests, even today, was it earlier this morning, and a wave of fresh UN-backed sanctions has raised the temperature to a level that's unseen before. Now things don't help, because the other issue we have here is not only the fact that the North Koreans are testing these missiles, but they're now believed to be capable of miniaturizing these nuclear warheads onto intercontinental ballistic missiles, sparked by a backlash from President Donald Trump.
Yeah. Although Trump said, the President Donald Trump said that these UN sanctions are, he downplayed it. He said it's not really that big a deal, really, which is interesting because the whole idea of the United Nations is there to find political solutions rather than going to war. So that kind of rhetoric doesn't help when you're trying to deal with somebody like Kim Jong-un, who we know very little about, mind you.
Yes, and a lot of things that we read about him, certainly in the West, and if you don't do some serious research and look really underneath the skin, people have portrayed him to be a madman.
Yeah,
he doesn't know what he's doing. He's just inherited this, and he says, you know what? Actually, he seems to know what he's doing.
Yeah,
he seems calm, and I think it's also really important to stress here that nuclear war is far from a certainty, but the world has taken a step closer to it without even a single bullet being fired.
Yeah.
That's the reality of 2017.
Well, these things always happen in that way, don't they? I mean, it always starts off with, war of words, and then you get some hotheads.
Yes, correct.
Like Donald Trump on one side and
Kim on the other, yeah.
Kim.
Well, they're playing a game of brinkmanship, aren't they?
Actually, John Gip. Well, I can't pronounce his name anyway. So he's sort of South Korean's intelligence man. I don't know where in the hierarchy he is, but he was on BBC Newsnight, and he was asked whether he thought Kim Jong-un was a madman. Yeah, because that's the kind of impression we get. And he actually, interestingly, he said that actually the threat to the Korean Peninsula today doesn't come from Kim Jong-un, who he thinks is quite rational in the way he approaches, but comes from Donald Trump. And the reason it comes from Donald Trump is because Donald Trump says one thing, his defense secretary says another. You don't know where he is, and what he's saying is that Kim Jong-un is looking at this and he's not sure what he's going to do next. So the whole idea is let's rather than let obviously they only got polar opposites, right? So rather than letting Donald Trump dictate the terms, he's going to do something to try and sort of counterbalance that process, which then what ends up happening is that it raises the tempo.
Yes.
And even though people want to go back, they can't go back because they're locked in this kind of a situation where they know that they're heading for some sort of a conflict, but yet there's no backing down.
No, but how can there be? For example, we have the President of the United States of America, and I think it's really important to stress here as well that although George W. Bush put North Korea in the axis of evil, you never heard him say, and I quote this from Trump, that North Korea would be met with fire and fury like the world has never seen if it threatens the US. I mean, this language, if anything, again, we have this caricature of Kim, which is, then he's listened to that, now he's going to do this. You can't help but feel that he's stoking the fire.
He is. I think both of them are. I mean, I'm sure Kim Jong-un's, not innocent in this, but but the fact is, I think they have been enemies, for a long time.
Yeah.
And I think Donald Trump is playing with fire here. I mean, he's supposed to be, quote unquote, leader of the free world, which comes with a tremendous amount of responsibility, not to mainly to kind of keep up, to not go to war and not allow conflicts or situations to get out of hand. But yet he actually, whenever he speaks, or whenever he tweets, it's quite an aggressive tone he takes, which
I'm glad he said that. Let me just pick that up actually. A recent tweet from Donald Trump, and I quote, "My first order as president was to renovate and modernize our nuclear arsenal. It is now far stronger and more powerful than ever before. Hopefully we will never have to use this power. But there will never be a time that we are not the most powerful nation in the world." This is strong stuff. And this can't be just at North Korea.
No.
China has to be in mind here, and so does Russia.
Yeah. I think that the problem with the United States is that it goes around the world, demanding that people aren't allowed to have nuclear weapons. And I'm all for, getting rid of nuclear weapons.
Yes.
I don't think anyone should have them,
I agree
quite honestly, because the world is a dangerous place as it is without such weapons of mass destruction. Not that we found any in Iraq, but they go around demanding countries aren't allowed to have nuclear weapons, which fair enough, because and the reason for that is that they may use these weapons in anger. Well, the only country in the world to have ever used nuclear weapons in anger, have been the United States. Well, the atomic bomb, when Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Yeah.
So if anyone if the UN is supposed to police anyone and demand that they relinquish the nuclear weapons, it should be the United States, who has the largest arsenal by far, far outstripping Russia, of nuclear weapons. I mean, why do they need all that?
Exactly, and my memory serves me right. And listeners, please get involved in the conversation. You can call us in the studio on 01733 602 133. Obama tried this. Tried to decrease the amount of nuclear weapons. In the world.
There is a deal between post Cold War between the United States and Russia to decommission nuclear weapons, but and that they're saying it's been derailed now with Putin on one hand and Donald Trump on the other. But the point is that if anyone is supposed to have resolutions passed against them for possessing nuclear weapons because there is a fear that they may use it in anger, should be the United States. Because they're the only ones thus far to have used it in anger.
Absolutely.
When other countries who are locked in a conflict have every reason to resort to that, have not resorted to that.
Yes.
Yeah, when
India,
America
Pakistan comes to mind.
Yeah, and other countries. When the United States was faced with the same challenges, it deployed its weapons of mass destruction.
Yes, and
I saw the pictures of. I mean, you can see the pictures.
It's 70 years now.
Yes, something like that. But you can see the documentaries of, these people, these families coming out. Probably going to work or whatever, kids playing, and suddenly there's this mushroom cloud which effectively sucks out the air, and they just, wherever, the ripple effect. I mean, it's a scary thing to see. But the point is that, I still think the United States should be the one that should be relinquishing their arsenal of nuclear weapons. But I'll tell you why they aren't, because they are part of the 5 members of the Security Council, right? So 5 permanent members of the Security Council, and then there are some rotating members. 9 of the 10 top arms exporter countries in the world sit on the Security Council.
Yeah.
5 permanent members of the Security Council, and 4 others, which between 2016 and 2018 will be Spain, Ukraine, Italy, and Netherlands, and then the 5 permanent members: China, France, Russia, and UK, and US. Those 9 members are the biggest exporters of nuclear arms. Exporters of weapons around the world.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, you only have to look at I only saw it today, about the conflict in Yemen, how the Brits have been accused of arming.
Absolutely,
and they've got blood on their hands.
Yeah. I mean, Saudi Arabia is the second largest importer of weapons. It's increased its imports intake by 212%. It's second to India. I mean, and India has increased its global imports by 13%, outstripping, China, affecting China and Pakistan, because obviously they on that kind of regional tensions.
Yes.
So all these imports and Saudi Arabia, its largest, US and UK are the ones, its main suppliers of weapons. And no wonder we don't say anything about its violation of human rights. It's war in Yemen, which is killing innocent people, women and children. It's dropping bombs, which is bought from the US and the UK. And effectively, we've been bought out. We've been bought out by Saudi money, by petrodollars.
Yeah.
So anyway, so the point being that these 9 out of 10, the 10th one is the other one is Germany. But Germany's never sat on the Security Council. But so we're talking about European countries by and large, and China and Russia are the main contributors to the world conflicts.
Yeah.
This is by the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, SIRPI. It talks about this. US says 33%, a third of the world market, and Russia 25%. So between them, 58%. So more than half of the total weapons sold in the world, global arms exports in 2015 were done by US and Russia.
Shocking.
I mean, what does that say? What does that say? I mean, you know,
and then by the same token, they're trying to sell their democracy around the world as well.
Yeah, I mean, whether it's an issue of democracy or not, that's a different matter. But the point is that whenever there is talk about, you know, world being at brink of war or being, to upset the world order, it's always, the fingers are always pointing to the Middle East or to Asia or to other places, never to Europe. And yet those people are buying weapons from the UK and US, China, Russia, you know, these places, and using them and actually increasing the imports, which is in violation, a lot of them are in violation of human rights. I mean, if you look at Anna MacDonald, what she says that many crises in Security Council is grappling with, like Yemen, for example, have in large part been brought about by activities of its own members in selling arms to conflict parties.
It's the irony.
You know, so in answer to the question that whether we're closer to a nuclear Armageddon or not, I think with the way Trump is going around the world selling, you know, he's been to one of his first order of business was to go to Saudi Arabia, which is accused of human rights violations in Yemen and other places. Was to go there, stoke up conflict, because next biggest one of the other major major markets for the US arms is Bahrain, is UAE.
Yeah.
So, you know, stoke up that conflict, and Bahrain actually, and to create that kind of conflict within the GCC, as well as sell, you know, hundreds of billions of dollars worth of arms.
So that begs the question then, brother. Can the man who authored The Art of the Deal find a way to do business with Kim Jong-un that does not involve the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people?
No, because he basically, he's put in that position of power by companies who want to do deals around the world. Yeah,
I mean, I agree with you. I mean, there's certainly little to indicate that there are any particular brilliant ideas which do not involve pressing the big red button. And unfortunately, North Korea has sought to develop nuclear weapons. I mean, personally, doing a lot of research as well. I mean, the other element of this as well would be, if you look at what happened in Iraq, if you look at what happened in Libya, if you look at what happened in Syria, the North Koreans might be thinking, well, hold on a minute, we don't want this to happen to us as well.
Well, the common denominator in Iraq, Afghanistan, Yemen, Libya, and to some extent Syria, because the catalyst for Syria maybe wasn't that, but and these countries, the common and actually Pakistan to one extent, because there was an attempt to make it a failed state. The common denominator here is the United States. Now, I don't want to bang on about the United States and how evil it is in the world, but you know, the facts. Kim Jong-un, we know nothing about. Yeah, I can't say anything about Kim Jong-un apart from what I hear from what I read in the press and the information we get from, you know, from its enemies. So you know, take that with a pinch of salt, because I remember when the Cold War was on. You know, I was growing up terrified of the Russians. Yeah. Thought they were going to invade us. Yeah. You know, and that was all part of that conditioning that we had. And then suddenly, you know, the Cold War's over, everyone's hugging each other, and they're suddenly the good guys. So in that sense, you know, that's a lesson learned, that, you know, people we know nothing about, we can't make a judgment call. But we know everything about the United States and Donald Trump. So we can make a judgment call. And to some extent UK as well, because UK sells huge amounts of arms to Saudi Arabia, as we said, and other parts of the world, although it's in 5th position because it only has a 4.5% of the market, whereas Germany has a 4.7%, France 5.6%, and China 5.9% yet. And if you consider that they're under 6%, all these others, whereas the US is 33% and Russia's 25%.
It's an absolutely astonishing figure. You know. What I will say as we're approaching our break is, in 1945, not a million miles from Pyongyang, the United States Army Air Force dropped 2 nuclear bombs on Japan. They killed somewhere in the region of 200,000 people. It is difficult 70 odd years on to quite comprehend the kind of destruction, but we should try to imagine it. So should Kim Jong-un, and so should Donald Trump, because that may be the best way for them to convince themselves that they should not ever be repeated. Okay?
Well, I guess I'm saying to you is, look, if you look at the I don't know. I mean, we have decided.
If you look at the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, brought a terrible war to an end. and should a nuclear warhead be deployed or against North Korea, it would start off a conflict of hideous proportions.
Yeah.
Well, that's the scary.
Well, look. We went into Iraq. The United States went into Iraq. 1.5 million people died.
Yeah.
They used depleted uranium on the weapons warheads, which poisoned the water supply. So the kids that were being born with all sorts of complications and issues.
Yeah.
So I don't think they care.
That's
the
true.
arms industry doesn't give a damn about human life. Those people sitting in the White House don't give a damn. I mean, 33% of the arms sales, the US sells to 100 countries. There's 192 countries in the world. US sells to 100 of those countries its arms. There are arms embargoes against loads of countries, but yet there are ways around it. I mean, Amnesty International says that profits from arms deals tend to trump human rights. Hypocrisy is rampant as governments pay lip service to human rights. So they don't give a damn about human life and human rights. As long as they can make $1, they don't give a damn.
What do you think, brothers and sisters and listeners around the world? Please get involved in the conversation. You can call the studio on 01733 602 133, or you can text WhatsApp us on 07745 278 978. We're just about go to a break. Please stay tuned. Jazakallah ahead.
Stay tuned to Salaam Radio after this short ad break.
I've just come out of Penny Appeal's orphans accommodation. Brothers and sisters, they've got a kitchen where they're getting fresh food cooked and served to them. They've got foster mothers looking after them. These are how orphans should be looked after. Sponsor an orphan for pennies a day. Call 03000 11 11 11 or visit the website pennyappeal.org. Remember, small change, big difference.
Sefa Turkish Mediterranean Restaurant. We're open 7 days a week, offering meal deals, cold starters, hot starters, house specials, kids meals, grills, burgers, fish dishes and desserts. Seating for families available too. We also cater for birthday parties and weddings. Sefa Turkish Mediterranean Restaurant. Great food at great prices. 349 Lincoln Road, Peterborough, PE1 2PF. Call us on 01733 566 565.
Iqra Academy is the only Muslim girls' school in Cambridgeshire where your daughter will develop her knowledge of Islam and the national curriculum in a safe environment. Ofsted has judged the teaching and learning, leadership and management, pupil behaviour and personal development as good in June 2017. Iqra Academy's qualified staff teach in small classes, and the school is producing sports teams who have a track record of succeeding at national level. With reduced fees and a good rating 3 times from Ofsted, why not consider Iqra Academy for your daughter? Enroll now to avoid disappointment. Please contact 01733 331 433 or email admin@iqraacademy.org.uk.
Do you have lots of clutter at home or in the office that needs to be kept but nowhere to keep it? Ivet Self-Storage offers a secure, affordable, clean and dry home for your belongings. We have security systems in place which are monitored 24 hours a day, ensuring that your items are safe. With a simple monthly payment, Ivet Self-Storage provides secure and tailored facilities to meet your specific requirements, whether short or long term. We offer the best prices and longest opening hours in Peterborough. For more information, please call on 01733 306 456 or visit us at Ivet Way, Westwood.
Gems and jewels. Wise sayings, interesting events, and moral lessons from Islamic history. They were trying to make him angry.
Ahnaf ibn Qais was famous for his forbearance and patience and for not becoming angry. Some of his companions gathered together and decided that they would try to do something to arouse his anger. One of them went to him proposing to marry his mother. Ahnaf said, "We are not rejecting you because we think your status is too low, nor because we lack the desire to be related to you through marriage. Rather, it is because my mother is old in age. She is almost 70. and you are a young man in the prime of your youth, you need an affectionate and fertile woman who will take from your manners and learn from your character. He then said to the young man, return to your people and inform them that you are not able to make
Celebrate the praises of thy Lord and pray for his forgiveness, for he is oft returning.
Peterborough's community radio station, Salaam Radio, 106.2 FM.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Let's Talk on Salaam Radio 106.2 FM. My name's Akil. I'm with my fellow co-host Hamid. How you doing, brother?
Assalamu alaikum.
Before the
good to be back.
Before the break, brother Hamid was getting very passionate about the topic.
Always getting passionate, bro.
This is true. This is what I like. I'm sure our listeners can
that's
feel
what
that
our show is all about.
Yeah.
Our show is about passion.
Absolutely, and what we believe in, etc., etc.
Absolutely.
And I would urge our listeners and people watching us online, etc., to get involved in the conversation. You can call the studio on 01733 602 133, or you can text and WhatsApp us on 07745 278 978. I think at this stage we'll even accept an emoji. But moving forward, we were talking about hard men and their nuclear toys, specifically about the United States, North Korea, Russia, China, all these countries who are de facto players in this situation. I think it's also important to stress here that the Chinese and the Russians have done their best to play this down, and they've also disagreed a lot with some of the statements that have come out of Washington in terms of ratcheting up the rhetoric. And you know,
I think China. It has obviously Korea's on its the Korean Peninsula is on its border effectively, and it has a lot of relationship with North Korea. So it's probably has a closer relationship with possibly North Korea or the Koreans than they do with the United States. So it's and in any case, it's in their interest not to allow a conflict to get out of control.
Obviously, because they don't want the Chinese struggle with the fact that the US has a footprint in their area because they're so close.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So strategically, it's not a good thing for them.
No.
But you know what we really the other element of this conversation as well is that we are for all intents and purposes heading towards a nuclear war. And the reason why I say that is,
I think it does look like that, doesn't it?
It's because of the players. Now, when you go back a little bit in time, we had a chap called Barack Obama. He definitely would. He definitely the 44th president,
right?
Isn't he?
One before the current one.
Yeah, so I think he was the 44th president. Listen, please.
The only black president.
Yeah, well, that's certainly helps matter. But anyway, he would not have handled this situation in the way it's currently been dealt with. I'll give you an example. The only example here that I feel which is relevant is his red lines in Syria. Once those red lines were breached, he didn't do anything.
Well, that was his failure, quite honestly.
That was his failure. Yeah. And in this one, he actually went out of his way to try and deal with the Korean issue diplomatically. Because for years and years and years and years, we've been led to believe that the North Korean, the DPRK, has not had the capability of any description to do anything. Okay, so it was almost, there was memes and it was it's quite comical seeing these things. For I genuinely can't remember. It's been that long, but 2017 comes along and voila, we've got Kim Jong-un. He's testing a different type of missile, but now seems like every other week. But the ranges have been extended. The possibility of now adding a nuclear warhead to this. Now they've tested a hydrogen bomb, which by all parties internationally have now said that's what it was. The Japanese and the South Koreans have confirmed that the rockets have gone past Japan. The most recent test done would have hit Guam, which is where the United States have got some of their a base. So it's almost as if there is an opinion which is that Kim Jong-un is trying to provoke the United States into doing so, then saying, well, look, you guys did this. I was just doing. Yeah, but I don't actually follow that.
Yeah, I mean, as for countries, countries can be catapulted into new technology now, because whereas we in Britain we had BT and British Telecom and then BT and so on and so forth, and it's still having to deal with its legacy infrastructure and the cost of kind of upgrading that. Some of these countries who are third world countries, they don't have to deal with those kind of legacy infrastructure. So they'll just be catapulted into, they'll just buy the latest tech, and suddenly they'll be ahead, or they are ahead of a lot of the developed countries, because they're still dealing with that. So with that in mind, I think a lot of technology to make weapons and weapons of mass destruction can quite easily be bought if you want to go out on the market and buy it. And a lot of this stuff does come from countries which aren't supposed to be selling that kind of technology to those countries and those regimes, and with Kim Jong-un, or with Iran, or with other countries which for a long time had sanctions applied to them. So there was this idea that these were like the poor, the bottom end of the developing world. But when they open up, you suddenly sort of see, well, they got like, their infrastructure is amazing. They're 97% in Iran's case, literacy rate. They are producing scholars and academics and all these kind of people. So technology as well. So I suppose the moral of the story there is that sanctions actually sometimes are good for the country, because they force them to to develop their own expertise and get off their back and actually do something, rather than just buying in the expertise from overseas,
which is what the North Koreans have done.
Which is what they probably have done. Yeah, absolutely. One of the things about one of the other things about this is that the problem here, and this is why, going back to what I was saying about arms exporters, where 5 permanent members are, and then 4 other rotating members are the largest, 9 out of 10 largest exporters of arms weapons, that these kind of conflicts are great, because they're great for business. If you look at India and Pakistan, for a long time, their conflict has been over Kashmir. Otherwise, really culturally, they share a lot, language-wise. There's so many things they share, so much in common.
Yes.
But yet, the issue about Kashmir has been a sore point for both Pakistan and that. Well, if you read a lot of the books that have been written, that conflict was left. Partly, you could argue that it was left because it forces both countries to spend huge amount of their GDP, huge amount of their annual budget on weapons, because there's an arms race on. Yeah, and they buy those from Europeans or other countries, which means they spend less money on education and on healthcare and on those kind of developing the infrastructure. But when there isn't a conflict, like we haven't had post for the last 60 years, since we've had the European Economic Area, and then it came into European Union and so on and so forth, where you don't have those conflicts, don't have those worries, you can divert that money to building your infrastructure, building your education, and developing human resource, which ultimately is the biggest resource that you can possess. So that's the other danger, that even if there isn't nuclear war conflict, there will most certainly be an arms race, and we see there is South Korea wanting to buy more weapons from America, with Japan saying that we can't just rely on the US, we need to have our own capabilities. You'd have China, which probably be producing more because of the threat, and then other countries would get into the game, so it just spreads out and out and out, and the only winners in this are the people who are exporting arms, and of those are the 5 permanent members of the Security Council. And just to kind of wrap it up, I suppose, in that sense, that William Perry, who is the ex-Pentagon chief, he said the nuclear weapons risk is greater today than it has been since the Cold War. And
I wholeheartedly concur. Thanks for that, brother. We can move over now into our second topic.
It's your favourite topic, isn't it?
Well, I wouldn't say it's my favourite topic. I think it's a topic that affects every single person on the planet. To some degree.
Okay. Very European-centric view of the world there. If it affects us, it affects everyone.
Everyone, brother. Okay, so On this part of the show, we're going to be talking about...
And he picks up his iPhone.
Oh, the irony. Oh, my goodness. You know what? Let me just remind the listeners of how they can contact us first. You can text and WhatsApp us on 077 45 978. Or you can call the studio on 01733 602 133. Or if you prefer to email, you can contact us on info@salamradio.co.uk. We are live on YouTube. We are live on Facebook. We'd love to hear from you. What we're going to be talking about now is... we live in a consumer society, okay? And the question is, are we compelled to always buy the latest gadget? Where has this come from, I hear you ask? It's come from Apple recently launching 3 new devices. Well, actually 4, technically speaking. But the first one would be the Series 3 of the Apple Watch, with lots of new features, etc. Then the iPhone 8 and the 8S. And that 20 minutes later, they launched the iPhone 10. To some people, that might be the X is actually 10. And that it was priced at £1,000. Just want to give people a little bit of background on that particular device. Bear with me a second.
You'll have to give background on Android devices as well.
No, just the reason why. There's a reason why that phone has been priced where it's been priced at.
Okay.
Because remember, 20 minutes before that, they launched the iPhone 8.
Right.
Now,
does 20 minutes have any bearing on
I'll
this
tell you why, because they sort of devalued the iPhone 8.
Well, it has, yes.
It has.
Yeah,
but who would want an iPhone 8 now,
Well, unless you can pay £1,000
exactly.
or dollars.
So the objective here, the reason why there's been a premium price point, is one of the reasons anyway, is supply and demand. And it's all about the 2 top screen manufacturers in the world. One is LG, one is Samsung. If Samsung are out there making their own devices, which obviously they are, and they're a successful company, the pressure of then having to supply 2 million more AMOLED screens isn't feasible. Therefore, the only other way around it would have been is to put the price to a certain level, and therefore pushing out your average Joe sort of consumers who probably won't have £1,000 laying around to one site just to buy a mobile phone. Now we're going to keep this.
I mean, it might not be as simple as that. It may be just a case of the fact that Apple has done its research, it's done all sorts of modeling, and realized that if we launch the 8 first, which is what's next in line, and then we launch the X at a premium price point, we'll get people saying, well, actually, you know what, I'll pay the extra couple of £100.
That's one way of looking at it.
And so they make more money.
Yep. I mean, my research obviously indicates it's all about the AMOLED screen.
It's a capitalist economy.
100%. So the question we got here, really is, would you agree, there are advantages and disadvantages of a consumer-led society? Can I have your opinions on that first? So I've got a couple of quite.
Well, I'm just wondering that this discussion is coming from the fact that you want to spend 2 weeks in a queue waiting for the new phone. Is that what it is?
Do you know something? And I won't be afraid
and you
to
would
admit
do
this.
that.
When the very first iPhone was launched 10 years ago, there is a picture of me in the ET. And I am standing
my God.
in
No,
the queue
please, no.
at 5 o'clock.
Are you serious?
Waiting.
And did that change your life?
I waited.
Did that change? What kind of bearing did it have on your life?
One thing I will stress here is I am an early adopter, and if it wasn't for the early adopters, second, third irritations of these devices wouldn't come about, and nor would the price cut.
What? They wouldn't have come about. What are you talking about?
Anyway, moving on. He's just gonna hate on me now.
I mean, you've been succumbed to you're their prime. When they go out to market, they take you as a model.
No, they don't.
And they say, this is the kind of model, and then this is where we kind of start from, and then we go into positive and the negative.
No, I just wanted to get the phone before everybody else.
Why?
I'll tell you why.
Is it a vain
I was
thing?
excited. I was excited. I thought, wow, new technology is going to come about. At that time there was nothing like it.
There
in
were
the
Nokia
world.
phones. What was wrong with them? Yeah, what was wrong with the Nokia phones?
No touch screen. Didn't have an iPod inside it. All these little bits and bobs.
He's just like the one button thing.
Yeah, he's such an oldie. But anyway, moving on. But what I will say here is, the question here is, look, we've all got phones, whether it's an Android, Windows, or iPhone, or whatever it is, and different manufacturers are available, and different operating systems as well. Everybody wants you. What you will notice now, especially in the last. Well, since the Apple iPhone launch as well, and how well Android's done is, you buy now not only a device, you buy into an ecosystem, and therefore, when you buy an app on your device now, you may buy, let's just say for argument's sake, it's a reading app of some description. It has nothing to do with the operating system you're purchasing or not. But once you buy that app, you've effectively bought a license for that device. That license doesn't get transferred to the other operating system. So in a way, once you buy a particular type of device,
you're locked in.
You're locked in, and then you're less likely to want to leave because you start thinking about, well, hold on, I've spent £1,600 on all these apps, and what am I going to do with this? So you carry on. But the trick Apple have done here,
£1,600 on apps.
That's or maybe being conservative as well. Anyway, moving on. I'm not the only one. There's loads of people out there who buy apps all the time.
I'm downloading free apps, bro.
And that's why you're not getting the most out of your device. But what I'm trying to say here is that so Apple then, there's no other way of looking at this. Apple have got the best marketing company in the world, bar none. Because when you see their launches of the devices, there should be no doubt in anybody's mind. The iPhone 7 and the iPhone 8, there's very little difference between them.
Right.
And every single year, the company...
iPhone 6 and iPhone 7 didn't have much of a...
So the thing what Apple tend to do is every single year, because of their shareholders, and that's why they're the most valuable company on the planet, is they are compelled by their shareholders to produce a new iPhone and a new iPad and etc. every single year, and that's why there are very small upgrades in their devices. So it could be the camera, it could be the processor, could be a different case or whatever it may be. But it's how they sell this to you when they are pitching this new device to you that compels an individual to think, actually, do you know what? I need to replace my phone. Now they might have had that phone for 6 months, but there's something inside this. Is that inherent? Is that from what makes us want to spend more money?
Is that in it?
Well, you tell me. When you see, I guess this is what I'm saying.
Okay. There was a study done by and just going back a long time.
So you finding it
by now? Let me see. Well, anyway, there was a study done. Actually, there was a book written, and in probably not in the UK, but in the European countries, likes of Mercedes and BMWs and all these car manufacturers. When you buy a car, they've got a couple of these plants where you go down for the day, you take your kids down with you, you spend the day in this kind of a amusement place, whatever, and entertainment, you get entertained and all that, and at the end of the day you walk out with the keys to your new car. You drive out actually with the keys to your new car, and this is a free service that they do. They don't make any money on it, but the reason they do it is not for you, because you've already made a decision to buy the car. It's you're bringing your little kid with you, and what they found is that the first car, when that kid grows up, the first car he or she will buy will be the car where they've had this positive experience. So if you translate that to, that's part of that consumerist kind of idea that these things aren't aimed at you because you're already there. They're aimed at your sons and your daughters and your nephews and nieces, whatever, your grandkids, that when they see this, when they grow up, they will say, oh, I want to buy an iPhone. And not because they have a rational reasoning for it, but it's just something in it. So, the marketing ideas are driven obviously massively by psychology and psychologists, and they from cradle to the grave. Nestle had this idea that from cradle to the grave, they would capture you from your cradle and provide you every service up until the grave, and that's what the companies want to do. And this is a social conditioning. It is social conditioning, absolutely. And, you often hear the term that people are sheep. Yeah. In large extent, you sometimes think, well, these adverts where people pay tens of thousands of pounds for 10-second ad on TV, it doesn't affect me. Well, it does affect you. It does, yeah. Because when you're looking for it, that's subconsciously, absolutely, it's there. Google, you look for something on one device. Suddenly, every ad on any device you look at will be related to something you've looked for. So it's effectively they have captured us. They know how our minds and how how we operate, how human beings operate, and they then targeting you with that information. So in a sense, with iPhone, you get your iPhone 7, there's nothing wrong with it. It's what, 6 months. There's very, like I said, very little difference between that and 8. Maybe there's a bit more difference between that and iPhone 10, but very little difference between that and 8. Apart from the fact there's all glass and whatever. But yet people still feel, you know what? I think I'll go and get that.
Exactly, and marketing is a big one, but it goes to the other element to this as well, is wanting that new thing, whether that's a car, whether that's a phone, wherever it may be. Like, you start looking at
you're
your
a product
devices,
of your society,
exactly,
aren't you?
and to that end, I've got a couple of advantages and disadvantages here for consumerism. So to quote Daniel Pierre, so we start with advantages.
Okay.
I guess we have a tremendous amount of choice in the marketplace.
Right.
Okay, so if you don't like a purple shirt on a mannequin, there's one in every color of the rainbow on the rack.
Right.
There's a specialized store for every possible.
Yeah, but there's sweatshops in India and Bangladesh, kids who are getting 10 pence a day to produce them.
True.
So your habit is being your diversity of shirts, the different color shirts is fed by some young kid in India who's foregoing his education and having to work in a sweatshop.
Similarly, there's going to be a child working in Bangladesh making a top from Primark. Anyway, there's a
or whichever other company.
Other companies are out there. Anyway, so there's a specialized store for every possible activity or interest. For big businesses, consumerism allows for brand differentiation, where we have the same product sold under many different names. Obviously, we see that everywhere, right?
Yeah.
This makes big businesses tons of money and allows for competition in the marketplace. Consumerism works very well for capitalists, economists, and corporations. There's your advantages. The disadvantages are
and we're talking about consumerism here.
Ism, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
We're talking about
we're stressing that. We're talking about ism,
right,
the whole, broadly speaking. So the disadvantages...
A way of life.
Absolutely. Way of life. Consumerism encourages highly wasteful behavior. And this is very true in our daily lives, okay? We waste our money on goods that often we do not need. Big businesses and advertisers work tirelessly to create an environment conducive to impulse buys. I have to admit, I have succumbed to that a few times. Anyway, think about all the little goodies they pack around, in checkout in stores. We waste our time searching for new things to buy rather than thinking of ways up to reuse the things we already have. Consumerism leads to overproduction of often, various different things, so that affects lots of, duplicating stuff. And then the other element is overproduction leads to the waste of valuable resources and energy. It also contributes to increasing amounts of plastics in our oceans and landfills. And that's just to name a few, brother, of disadvantages here. Consumerism, there are far more disadvantages, in my opinion, of consumerism than there are advantages. The advantages though are great. Look, and they really punch up, they do punch above their weight, the advantages. However, I just find way more disadvantages. And I know we are a product of our own society, and I know I'm using the devices I do to work, work with you on the show. I get that, but you can't.
I mean, the reality of consumerism is this: that today we have phones which are more powerful than the Cray computers, right? Which was only like 25, 30 years ago, whatever it was. We have phones which are more powerful than the computers that sent people to on the spaceship that sent people to the moon or whatever, right? But yet we have people in the world, a large proportion of people in the world who can't get clean water to drink, who can't get their diseases, vaccination, whatever, to look at, who haven't got medical equipment to kind of take care of them or to understand their ills. And this is because we are so driven. Europe is probably 80% of the world's resources it controls, right? It doesn't have, it controls, right? And it directs them to stuff like this, which is great in one sense, but the reality is human life is far greater.
I agree.
And if we could balance that out, and huge chunks of that money would go to save lives, I think we'll feel better about buying a new phone. I mean, the other thing is these phones have technology in them or have materials in them which are being sourced from countries in Africa, which have been sold to corporations by corrupt regimes, by kickbacks and all sorts of things to get cheap cheap minerals and materials to then put into these phones. So to me, I think consumerism leads to that. I think capitalism leads to that. This idea that you may not have another chance, so take as much as you can now, and whether that destroys the environment or not, that's the secondary issue as far as they're concerned, or if it impacts people in their lives.
Thank you very much, brother. Thanks for that. I've been corrected by one of our listeners. The iPhone 10 is not £1,000; it's $999.
No.
Okay, so thanks very much for that text.
Actually, I think it's $999.
It's pounds actually, because
it's
Apple
pounds
have
as well.
made it equivalent.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because of Brexit and all that sort of stuff, if you look at it now, it's actually cheaper.
So it's actually going to cost us more.
It's actually cheaper to catch a flight from the UK, go to America, go to a state where you pay 0% tax, buy an iPhone and get back, than buy it in the UK.
But you won't get it till October anyway.
Or November. November is the pre-order date.
Right, yeah.
But anyway, we're not Apple salespeople.
No.
I just want to say thanks for
I want to move over to Android
personally. Before we go, actually, we have the alongside Penny Appeal, we have the Rohingya Emergency Appeal. You can join Penny Appeal for a live appeal on Saturday, the 16th of September, from 2 p.m. on Salaam Radio 106.2 FM or online at salamradio.co.uk. All of our social network sites will be active as well. You can also donate now at justgiving.com/Rohingya Salaam Radio. I urge everybody to get involved in that particular event. That wraps up our show. I just want to say thank you very much to all our listeners. Thanks for the interactions.
Yeah.
It's been and thanks for your time, Brother Hamid.
Your business potential.